He showed up at his wife's company party as a surprise, but nothing could prepare him for what he overheard. His wife mocking him in front of her coworkers, calling him dead weight. That moment didn't break him. It set him free. I wasn't supposed to be at that party, not originally. My wife Claire had planned it weeks in advance. One of those rooftop work events that's no big deal until you realize it's treated like the Oscars. When she casually asked if I wanted to come, it felt more like an afterthought than an invitation. But I said yes. Lately, our conversations had been shallow. Reminders, schedules. Did you pay the landscaper? Not much else. I figured showing up might shake the dust off, prove to both of us that we were still worth the effort. Claire got there early with her coworkers. I came straight from the office. We were supposed to meet up there, but I never actually found her. I spotted her first. She was across the room in full command of the space, laughing, animated. That version of her didn't come home with me anymore. It had been years since I'd seen it up close. Something about that stung, but I kept my distance. I wasn't looking to embarrass her or make a scene. Just wanted a moment to take her in before walking over. Then I heard it. I wasn't eavesdropping, not intentionally. I was about 10 feet away, partially behind a column, drink in hand. One of her friends asked, "So where's the lucky husband tonight?" Claire turned slightly. I'll never forget her smirk. She raised her glass and said, "Oh, you mean my plus one?" Beat. Grin. "Yeah, he's here somewhere. Probably weighing down the bar like the deadweight he is." The laughter that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't wild or mocking. It was worse. It was quiet, nervous. The kind people offer when they're not sure if something's funny or just mean. Not one person spoke up. Not one tried to soften the blow. And she wasn't done. She went on about how hard it is to keep everything running. The job, the house, her calendar. "Honestly, I don't even know how I do it all with him around," she said, like I was a child dragging on her ankle. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stood there and let the words settle. In that moment, it all clicked. This wasn't a one-time joke. It was a performance, a rehearsed script she'd clearly used before, one I'd never been around to hear. And yet, I had always been there. I was the one who adjusted his schedule when her boss demanded late-night Zooms. I cooked dinner most nights, paid the bills, managed her dentist appointments because she'd forget otherwise. I did those things because I believed in partnership, in showing up even when it wasn't acknowledged. But that night, I saw what she really thought of me. Not a partner, not a teammate, just a weight she carried around to look generous. I didn't confront her. I placed my drink on the counter and walked out. No dramatic exit, no slammed doors, just quiet, final clarity. I didn't want to ride home with her. I didn't want to sleep in the same bed. I didn't even want to be in the same life. Out on the street, the breeze hit harder than expected. The music from the rooftop still buzzed faintly above me. I stood under a streetlight and breathed. Not out of sadness, out of certainty. Something had shifted, irreversibly. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was done. I got into my car and drove. Not home, but to a quiet hotel on the other side of town. Checked in under my middle name. No calls, no explanations, just silence. And for the first time in a long time, that silence felt like safety. Lying in that stiff hotel bed, I thought about the sacrifices, the favors, the quiet, invisible labor I had done to keep things functioning. Claire had never seen it because she never had to. That was my gift and my mistake. But that was over now. When the sun rose the next morning, I had already made up my mind. I would go home, not to talk, not to argue, but to leave. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly. Because the moment someone treats your love like an inconvenience, that's the moment you stop offering it. I arrived home just after sunrise. The house was still. Her car was in the driveway. I moved quietly, not because I cared if she heard me, but because I didn't want to waste time. There was nothing left to say. I walked straight to the bedroom closet and pulled out the old duffel bag I used for weekend trips. I didn't take much, just what I needed. Clothes for a few weeks, my laptop, my passport, the watch my father gave me when I landed my first job. Everything else? I left, including the suit she bought me for our anniversary. I didn't want anything that came with strings. From the home office, I opened the safe and took the emergency cash I'd always kept there. A habit from my dad. Always keep something nobody can touch but you. I never thought I'd need it for this. Next, I logged into our joint account. I transferred my salary from the past 3 months into my own private account. I didn't touch her money. This wasn't revenge. It was release. A clean break. Then I wrote a note. Not a letter. Not a speech. Just a single sentence. Printed in block letters on a sticky note. Dead weight doesn't carry the load. I left it on the fridge door, where I knew she'd see it during her morning routine. Then I walked out. No fanfare. Just a man reclaiming his time. I moved into a bare studio on the other side of town. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first few days were strange. Not in a sad way, more like shedding an old skin. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Claire started calling on day 2. First, just a text. Where are you? Then, this isn't funny. Then came the shift. Can we talk? And I didn't mean what I said. I didn't answer. Not once. I wasn't ghosting her. I was unhooking myself from a pattern. For years, her cruelty came with disclaimers. Jokes, kisses, follow-up apologies that never addressed the damage. Just the optics. Not this time. Every message I didn't read was a brick laid between the man I used to be and the man I was becoming. I ran in the mornings. I cooked simple meals. I slept through the night without grinding my teeth. It didn't take long to realize how much of my life had been spent managing hers. I had bent myself into something useful, invisible, silent, and she had called it dead weight. One day while checking my email, I saw a preview of her message flash across my screen. I can't do this alone. You made this impossible. I deleted it. Because that's the thing. She hadn't been doing it alone. Not ever. I had been behind every working piece of her life. I was the reason the lights stayed on, the bills got paid, the calendar stayed aligned. And the moment I stopped moving, her world lost balance. I wasn't cruel. I didn't air our story to friends or family. I didn't look for sympathy. I didn't need to. Life would tell the story in its own time. Within a week, evidence of her unraveling began to surface. A friend messaged me. Ran into Claire. She seemed off. Then another sent me a screenshot of an Instagram story she'd deleted. Burnt food, captioned, trying to do it all, failing spectacularly. It wasn't malicious. It was revealing. Then came the mortgage call. A representative from the lender informed me the latest payment had bounced. I hadn't changed my number yet, so they called me as co-signer. I told them, calmly, that all financial responsibility was now hers. Legally, logically. Then the landscaper called. No one was paying. The front yard had started to look like a forgotten lot. I told him to cancel all future visits. That was the pattern. One by one, the invisible gears I used to turn were grinding to a stop. She didn't miss me. Not at first. She missed the results, the systems, the structure I gave her life. She had told everyone she ran the show. But now, without the man she labeled dead weight, the curtain was collapsing. A former colleague of hers, James, called me one night. I don't know what happened between you two, he said, but she's not okay. She's missing deadlines, losing clients. She seems out of sync. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. She was out of sync because I was the one keeping rhythm. I had carried our life like a silent metronome, and when I stepped away, the beat fell apart. I didn't feel joy watching her stumble. I felt proof. Proof that I had mattered more than she ever admitted. Proof that my absence wasn't empty. It was powerful. The quiet didn't feel like loneliness anymore. It felt like clarity, and I was just getting started. 3 weeks after I left, I saw her. I hadn't planned it. I was grabbing coffee with a former coworker downtown, near my old office. As I walked toward the cafe, I caught a glimpse of someone across the parking lot, standing still, scanning faces. It was Claire. She looked thinner. Her posture wasn't confident anymore. It was cautious. She didn't see me. I ducked behind a row of parked cars and waited. She stood there for another minute, then slowly walked to her car and drove away. That night I got a message, a paragraph this time. I miss you. I didn't realize how much you did. The bills, the little things. It's all been falling apart without you. I said something stupid that night. I was trying to be funny. I didn't mean it, but she did. Maybe not in the way she now claimed, but the words weren't an accident. You don't call someone dead weight unless you believe deep down that they're disposable. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no return address. She must have gotten it from someone we both knew. It was careful, polite, emotional, but not an apology, more of a plea. I need you back. I can't do this without you. There it was. Not remorse, not regret, need. The same woman who laughed about carrying the full load was now admitting the load was too heavy. And yet, even now, she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for rescue. Then came the face-to-face. It was a Monday morning. I had just finished my run and was unlocking the door to my apartment when I heard a voice behind me. Wait. I turned. I already knew who it was. Claire stood at the curb, clutching her purse like it was the only thing holding her together. I needed to see you, she said. I've been trying to keep everything running, but it's like nothing works without you. She stepped closer, but stopped when she realized I wasn't moving to meet her. I know I hurt you, she said. I know what I said at the party. I've replayed it over and over. I let the silence stretch. Then I spoke. Like I was dead weight? Or like you'd be better off without me? Her lips parted. Nothing came out. For once, she wasn't performing. She looked exposed, not pitiful, just unprepared for the truth to be this sharp. I didn't realize how much you did, she said finally. Not just the money or errands, the structure, everything. That's because I kept the balance, I said. You were busy showing off the steering wheel while I read the map, checked the tires, kept the engine running. She blinked. I don't want to fight. I'm not fighting, I replied. I'm informing. She pulled a folded envelope from her bag and handed it to me. Final division papers, she said quietly. I signed them. I'm not here to stop anything. I just thought I owed you this. In person. I nodded. You did, but not now. You owed it to me when you were surrounded by friends and decided to make me a punchline. You owed it to me the 100 times you let your pride speak louder than your gratitude. I know, she whispered. No, I said. You don't. Not yet. I stepped inside the apartment and came back with a folder. It wasn't dramatic, just something I'd been compiling in case this day came. I handed it to her. Inside was a list, a breakdown of everything I had done for the past 3 years. Quiet, thankless tasks, paying property taxes, renewing insurance, scheduling her doctor appointments, keeping track of family birthdays, booking the cleaner, buying her preferred groceries. It was all there. At the bottom I had written, "This is what dead weight looked like." She read in silence. Her hands shook slightly. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, I said, but you need to see this, because if you don't, you'll do it again, to someone else. She looked up, tears brimming. You were never a burden. I shook my head. That's the tragedy. I never needed to be everything. I just needed not to be nothing. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I raised a hand. Let me finish. She nodded. I didn't leave because you said something cruel. I left because you meant it. Because in front of a crowd, you let your truth slip out. And that truth, it was louder than any apology could ever be. She was silent. Do you hate me? She asked softly. No, I said. I outgrew you. She winced. I wish you'd told me sooner. I did, I said. Every time I picked up the slack. Every time I adjusted my life to make yours easier. But you didn't listen. You thought silence meant agreement. It didn't. It meant patience. And you ran it dry. She nodded slowly. Something in her shifted. Not just guilt, but understanding. I handed her the signed copy of the papers. I'll file these tomorrow, I said. You'll be free. So will I. She clutched the envelope. I don't know how to go back to the way things were before you. You're not supposed to, I replied. You're supposed to learn why you lost what you never valued. Then I closed the door. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down. I was free. After that final conversation, I didn't hear from Claire again. No more texts, no more surprise visits, just quiet. I filed the divorce papers the next morning. The courthouse was calm, efficient, no drama. I handed over the documents, signed where I was told, and walked out with a stamped copy in my jacket. It didn't feel like a climax. It felt like confirmation. There was no relief, no sadness either. Just a stillness that I hadn't felt in years. I kept the apartment. It wasn't meant to be permanent, but slowly it became mine. Not because of decor or layout, but because of what it represented. Freedom. My routines changed. I cooked when I wanted to. I let dishes sit in the sink overnight if I didn't feel like washing them. I ran when I felt like clearing my head. No pressure, no expectations. I didn't broadcast my divorce. I didn't update social media or send out mass messages. I told the people who needed to know, and the rest, they figured it out. Claire sold the house within 2 months. I didn't ask why or how much she got for it. The place never mattered to me. It had stopped feeling like home long before I left. It was just a box I had worked to keep standing while she decorated the outside. From mutual friends, I heard she had moved into a smaller condo closer to her office. One said she looked different, quieter, not in a broken way, just dulled. Someone else said she didn't host anymore. The weekend brunches, the company wine nights, those stopped. I didn't take joy in any of it. This wasn't a victory lap, but I did take note of what life looked like without me in it. The things I had carried, tasks, habits, emotional load, hadn't been dead weight. They were structure. And once I was gone, that structure collapsed. One night I ran into Carol, our old neighbor, the kind of person who always knew everyone's business. She greeted me with warmth, then paused. I ran into Claire, she said. She looked not great. I nodded. She said she misses you. I didn't flinch. She misses the results of having me, not me. Carol frowned. That's a hell of a distinction. It's the only one that matters. Because here's the truth. I didn't miss Claire. I missed who I thought I was allowed to be when we first met. The man who believed in partnership, in shared burdens. I missed believing that love meant mutual effort, that being dependable would earn respect. But the version of our relationship that actually existed, I didn't miss it at all. I didn't miss being taken for granted. I didn't miss being treated like a spare part in my own life. I didn't miss walking on eggshells just to keep the peace. I didn't miss the silence that followed every moment I tried to bring something up, only to be met with deflection or sarcasm. What I gained in her absence was clarity, and I wasn't about to trade that in for guilt. A few months after the divorce, I started noticing things. Small changes in how I carried myself, how I thought. I started planning trips, reconnecting with people I had distanced myself from, not because of conflict, but because Claire never really welcomed them into our world. I realized how much I had compressed my own identity to fit inside a version of life she had curated. I hadn't stopped being myself. I had been paused, and now I was playing again. Occasionally, I would walk past places we used to frequent, a restaurant where I always paid, even after she started earning more, a theater where she spent the entire show whispering critiques. I remembered those nights clearly, not with pain, but with detachment. I remembered how hard I tried to make things feel special, and how often those efforts ended with her scrolling through her phone on the ride home. Those memories used to sting. Now they served a different purpose. They reminded me why I left. One evening, while closing my laptop, I saw an email from Claire. Subject line, "Just wanted you to know." I didn't open it. Whatever she had to say, I didn't need to hear it. I didn't need closure. I had already created it. Because the real power in walking away isn't in hurting someone. It's in no longer asking for permission to be seen. Claire had built a life on the belief that she was doing all the heavy lifting. She thought my presence was optional, convenient, easy to discard. She only realized the truth when everything she thought she could manage alone started falling apart. But by then, I had already moved on. Not to someone else, but to someone better. Myself. Life after Claire wasn't glamorous. It was quiet, steady, and, most importantly, mine. The studio apartment that once felt temporary slowly became familiar. I didn't fill it with much. No decorative statements or expensive upgrades. Just small habits that were mine alone. Books I'd stopped reading years ago lined the shelf. My playlist replaced the ones we used to argue about. I cooked on my own schedule, left when I wanted, came back when I felt like it. There were no apologies waiting, no explanations demanded. Some nights I'd sit by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the city move. It didn't feel lonely. It felt like breathing without instruction, like I'd spent years holding my breath without knowing it. I wasn't chasing peace. I had it. From time to time, people who knew both of us would reach out. They never asked me to come back, but they hinted. "She's not the same," they'd say. "She's changed." Maybe she had, maybe not. It didn't matter. Change without accountability is just adaptation. You can be different and still not understand what you broke. Claire never apologized, not fully. She sent signals, emails, messages left on read. One old friend told me she was seeing someone new. I felt nothing. Not anger, not jealousy, just distance. The kind of distance that no explanation could bridge. Because the truth is, I didn't leave her because she failed. I left because she dismissed the effort it took for me to stay. She called me dead weight while standing on the platform I quietly built beneath her, and once I stepped away, she had to feel the emptiness she once insisted wasn't there. That was the lesson, not just for her, but for anyone who's ever felt invisible in a relationship. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't shouting or demanding recognition. It's removing yourself entirely, letting the absence speak the truth your presence never could. Months passed. I picked up hobbies I'd put on hold, took a weekend trip to Colorado, started seeing friends I hadn't made time for in years. None of it was revolutionary, but all of it was real. Every step reminded me that the life I'd put on hold for that marriage hadn't disappeared. It was waiting, quietly, patiently. One day I ran into a mutual acquaintance. She didn't mention Claire directly, but before we parted ways, she said, "Whatever happened between you two, I hope you know you made an impact." I smiled. I always knew, because that's what Claire never understood. My value wasn't in being flashy or loud. It was in the consistency, the structure, the quiet strength of someone who shows up day after day, even without applause. When I stopped showing up, everything she thought she could handle collapsed. Not because I cursed it, but because it was never built on her strength to begin with. Weeks later, another email arrived. Same sender, same unread message. Subject line, "Just wanted you to know." I hovered over it for a second, then deleted it. Because whatever she wanted me to know, she had years to say it when it mattered. And the words I needed, the respect, the gratitude, the truth, they never came. That was the final lesson. Leaving someone isn't the hard part. Staying gone is. Not because you miss them, but because part of you always wonders if they finally understand. But understanding is too late when you've already rebuilt yourself. I wasn't her burden. I wasn't an accessory. I wasn't the background noise to her big, exciting life. I was the balance, the structure, the one who made the invisible look effortless. She didn't lose me because she was cruel. She lost me because she thought love was a solo act, and it never was. When she called me dead weight, she didn't just insult me. She revealed how little she understood the foundation of our marriage. And when I left, I didn't collapse. She did. Because I wasn't dragging her down, I was holding her up.